Alright. What's going on, everybody, and welcome back. We've got Cure in the top right side of the map for Team Liquid, herO in the bottom left. It is the semi-finals of the Global StarCraft League. This is, of course, the pinnacle of Korean StarCraft, the best Protoss player in the world, against a player who, several times over the last few years, has held the title of the best Terran versus Protoss player in the world. And yet, in this specific head-to-head matchup against herO, he is more often the prey rather than the predator. herO, a player who gets in his face, is impossible to predict, and is very hard to pin down. Especially here in the GSL, where it's all about preparing for your opponent. Usually you have a week, sometimes more than a week, to prepare for your matchups. You want to prepare strategies. You want to think about what's he going to do? How can I counter what he's going to do? How do I outplay him? How do I set everything up to put myself in a good position? And against herO, a player who is so impossible to predict, a player who often doesn't know what he's going to do until he decides in the moment, in the heat of the action, to actually do it. You can't really predict what herO's going to do. And as a result, you have to get in there and play a bit more loose, a bit more reactive. He's going to force you to adapt. And that's something where Cure, he can adapt. Absolutely. I'm not saying he's like stiff in his play. He's not too rigid or anything like that. But he is a player who does like to play relatively middle of the road, feel his opponent out, and then kind of pivot in a hard direction when he realizes which direction is the correct one in that particular game. He often dances back and forth quite well with herO for a bit in these series, but getting 3 wins in a row to win a best of 5 will be very difficult, especially starting here on a giant map like Old Republic. It is, of course, a 1-Rax Reaper expand to start here for Cure. herO has gone Nexus before Cybercore, which I absolutely adore. If you've gone for an early probe like this, it's a giant map. There's just no need to go Cybercore first. And because he's gone for it this way, he can go second gas before second pylon, get up the extra Nexus, earlier chronos, earlier probe production, and it's just a very elegant build order. He's also forced the barracks to be placed in a different position. The Reaper will now come out, but it is far from the earliest that a Reaper can head across this map. Interestingly, Cure's going Tech Lab, so it looks like he might be thinking about some sort of Marauder into 3 racks opening. Those have become somewhat popular, but he's got 2 gases behind it, and that to me says probably Factory. Let's see what this SCV does, guys. It's waiting for 150 minerals. Factory does go down. Okay. Fascinating. So just a couple of Marauders to slow down any Adepts that come to his side. And oh, it's Robo First for herO as well, guys. I love Robo First. Now, for many years, people have been telling me Robo First is not a good opening in PvT. And I've always said, yeah, it sounds really bad to build invisible units that give you map hacks and see exactly what the opponent's doing. That sounds really bad, guys. Really bad build order. And people have told me, well, no one does it. It's not meta. It's not been good for ages. And the one person I've said is, have you guys not watched herO's games? He doesn't do it all that often, but maybe 1 in 7 games, herO will just go Robo First. Get a few observers out, get full vision of what's happening. He can harass you with a Warp Prism early. He can build Immortals to shut down any tank or Cyclone push. He can go early Colossus even before going anything like Blink. And often, more often than not, he ends up going Storm Drop off this. Gets the observers for map vision, sees exactly what's going on, and then he will do that. But in fact, he's building an Immortal in his 2nd and 3rd gateway. Okay. Oh my god, you're such a troll. Okay, so guys, herO's going to make a few sentries and gateway units, and he's going to go across with probably 1 Immortal, 1 Warp Prism, and he's just going to try and kill Cure. And Cure's building Marauders and Cyclones, which are not really the optimal units against Immortals. I feel for Cure because he's rushing +1 weapons, which, by the way, he's only just got his 2nd barracks building, so why is he rushing +1 weapons? He catches a Stalker, though. Ooh, does he, though? Stalkers are a bit faster. Can he get another shot? He can. Good concussive grenades. Getting a Stalker is huge. That's a great start there for herO, but the Warp Prism's on the way. So the problem with Cure's build, guys, is he's rushing upgrades for a build that has almost no actual units to use those upgrades. Bjorn used to have a build like this as well, and I've always been heavily critical of it. It's very reminiscent of what you see in Silver League a lot of the time, where players rush upgrades before they're useful. Now, obviously, these are pro players. They're not doing this because they're ignorant Silver players. Q is kind of going, it's a big map. I think this game's not going to have any meaningful fights until well after that's done, and probably the following upgrades. He is not expecting an Immortal 3 Stalkers and an Adept to walk into his base right now. herO catching him completely out of position. Those Marauders will go down. He does get a tank sieged up. He's got to finish building that bunker. And that bunker will finish, but of course he's going to lose these 2 Marauders on the outside as well. Now, +1 weapons finishing is not a big change, guys. He's still only got a handful of Marines. My point with why this is a, in quotation marks, Silver League build order is the upgrades aren't actually useful right now. Oh, hero's going to elevate to the high ground. Adepts are going to shade on top, go after the Cyclone. He drops the Immortal and the Stalker on top of the Siege Tank. If you can get rid of the Cyclone and the tank, that will be massive. They both do go down. The Immortal can always pick up into the Warp Prism and drop down there. He's going to warp in some Zealots as well. The Warp Prism needs to get away. The Prism and the Immortal both very damaged, but not quite dying. The Stalkers are wasting a bit of time there. Unfortunately, herO wasn't watching, so the Reaper killed 4 probes in his natural while he was executing that. He never actually noticed the Reaper. Cure, he's microing the Reaper to the high ground, the low ground. Really well done. I think the Prism went down. Did the Prism go down? No. I think he's recalled the Prism. Okay, so he saved the Immortal with the Warp Prism. Those are the 2 most high-value units in the push. He does lose 6 probes. herO lost a lot more than he probably should have there. On the other hand, it was a great push, and one has to question Cure's build order, guys. I guess his build order was basically going for 1-1. I think Cure's whole plan was I will hit a 1-1 timing with like Marine Siege Tank. And I think he was even probably thinking of pulling the boys with it. He didn't have to do that. He was gonna have, it was definitely like a modified long-term game plan. He did not want the fighting to get serious this early in the game. I think this is a bit of a build order counter for herO against Cure, where herO throws the kitchen sink at him and Cure gets caught a bit too defensive on the giant map. Hard to force the issue aggressively as Terran on such a big map, and the push that herO did has got to be the last thing on your mind. Who the hell just pushes you with an Immortal, a Warp Prism, and a couple of Gateway units? It's so out of the meta. It's such an old build, but it's also the biggest map in the map pool where you wouldn't expect this sort of thing at all. Got to be careful not to drop it in tank range. He does drop in tank range, but gets a few Marines for shields, and of course he's got a 3rd up, so this is, I dare say, game over. herO's going to go take a 4th down here soon. For now, it's just pylons for vision. He's getting up to 7 gateways. Forge is finishing. He's got charge finished. You can go blink after that as well. And this is a Terran who's not started medevac. So even though it's 1-1 upgrades, and you go, well, Cure's got an upgrade advantage, the problem is you're down an entire base for a long period of time, and your army doesn't necessarily beat this army yet. It in fact looks kind of like it loses to this Protoss army. So if you're down on economy massively and the Protoss is a scarier army, this is really tough. He's hitting before stim and shields. The Immortals drop on the high ground. They take out the tank. The Zealots go into the mineral line and get 5 SCVs, and these sort of trades are good for herO because he's got 20 more workers. And Q is like, give me a minute, let me finish 1-1, let me finish my stim and shields, stop attacking into me, mate. And of course, herO's the last person who's going to listen to your wishes in this regard. Does headbutt in a little bit derpily there, does herO. Throws away a lot of Zealots. Those 1-1 Marine Marauder actually doing some excellent damage. Guys, remember, herO is the best player in the world from behind. He's also the worst from ahead when it counts on top-level players. He never hedges a bet. He does throw armies away into the meat grinder almost constantly. And he did stay there just a little bit too long. And he loses. The Prism actually goes down. Q gets the Prism. Dude, that is crazy. I didn't think he was going to get that Prism. RoboVay's on the way, but there's no splash damage for herO. So the whole way he was going to beat Q was off of numbers. Now the number advantage isn't there, but look at that. That was a bad stim. Q wanted the Stalker, but he's already too damaged. He feels like he needs to push right now, but his units are too wounded because of how delayed these medevacs are. So where are the next 2 medevacs? They've just popped out at home. He needs to boost those to the front right now. He can't engage until those are ready. Siege Tank's nearly worthless against Zealot Immortal guys. Tanks are okay against Colossus Stalker, but against the Immortals and Zealots, they are very, very weak. Q could still win this game, guys, but that first Colossus is going to make it much harder. herO's going to take a creative expansion location on the left side. I think he realizes that he probably couldn't defend either the middle or the right just then, so he throws it on the side where Cure is least likely to check. Q's got a 3rd command center, almost finished. Units lost time is 2,200 resources in his favor. That's an issue. Widow Mines are building 4th and 5th barracks as well. He's going to take a gas randomly on the base that's not even taken yet, herO. Interesting. 2nd Forge is on the way. That pylon does go down. There's a lot of Zealots he's going to send in for a counterattack while herO tries to defend with 2 Sentries, 2 Zealots, and a Stalker. Now, any sane Protoss player would run away from this bio army, but this is herO we're talking about, guys, so he runs towards Cure with his very exposed, very valuable tech units. He has to hold this choke point with force fields. 2 force fields can split there, the Terran army, so that could do it. The Zealots try to come in. That Marauder holding the choke point like a champion. Oh my god, that Marauder! Dude! Dude, all the zealots headbutted to the choke point. No! And look at that. He drops over the force fields onto herO. Can herO do it with the zealot warpins? Widowmine's trying to unload on top. The Colossus will go down. Dude, Q has done it. He's done it. The 1-1. The 1-1 upgrade rush. The efficiency in army versus army just got out of control. Oh my lord, those zealots. I really thought those zealots were going to force this to be basically an all-in. But Q has found some pretty good damage. More zealots and Colossus coming. It's not over till it's over. It's a giant map. herO has a 4th base up and still has a probe advantage. That being said, Q does have a 3rd base now. Viagra's extended thermal lance, has just kicked in for the Colossus. Bio coming out in large numbers. But dude, that little choke point there with those zealots massively... If some of those zealots split into the main, I think they could have killed like 15 more workers. Because there was not a lot of firepower for Terran against, what, 12 zealots or something? But now there's 2 Colossus here. This army does win for herO, especially once +2 kicks in. +2's not ready just yet. And he's going to fight just before that is Cure, but I think with so many zealots, the Guardian Shield helped a fair bit as well. Oh, wow. Good arc for Cure, but the Colossus are doing a good job with their micro. The Marauders just aren't really dying yet, though, and that's a real problem. You kind of need to bait the Marauders into a clump where the Colossus can do a bit more splash damage. That one Viking is putting out a lot of her onto these Colossus. The Colossus move a bit too far forward. One gets focused by those units. The Vikings still alive. The Stalkers need to get rid of that Viking. I mean, I say the Stalkers. It's 1 Stalker and 2 sentries. That's why the Viking wasn't dying there. herO gonna send his probes back to mine. He's on 66 workers. This is like 3 Marauders, a Marine, and 3 Vikings. And Q realizes, wait, my ground army's terrible here, but he gets the Colossus, which is the most important part. There's now no splash damage for herO. Q is up in supply, but I think he's fighting with too few units right now. If he starts losing medevacs, that could be a real problem. He loses one medevac's not the end of the world, and his 3rd base is saturated. +3 weapons is on the way. No way. Guys, he got +2. He's on the way to +3. That's huge. So Q's upgrades on this big map actually are getting the time to pay off. Now, obviously, a bit of a gamble, the build that he went for in the early game. It felt like it put him behind, but there's this thing where when herO gets ahead, man, he overextends almost predictably, right? But you put Q behind against herO, and that's where suddenly he never overextends. He just makes perfect comeback gambles. Great force field. Those Marauders get trapped. 3 of them do get saved by the medevac. That was a pretty damn clutch move there by Q. Sorry for my observing, guys. My model of my Nidus Worm just got caught on my mouse cable, so I've just moved that out of the way. My tabletop Nidus Worm model. Its claws were just getting hooked on my mouse cable. I'm using a wireless mouse. I can unplug this. It's fully charged. I was like, I was just, there was a Nidus Worm getting dragged back and forwards across my desk just then. Sorry for the gap there. Okay, medevac's gonna go north. Biolib hanging out. +3 attack, +1 armor on the way. herO has so much more map control. The problem with Terran in these scenarios is you can be like up in army, up in upgrades, but if you don't go press and force the advantage, it takes you a long time to build command centers and SCVs, whereas Protoss is just a bit more agile. They can drop a Nexus, drop a second Nexus, chrono probes much quicker than you can and kind of pivot their tech with chronos much faster. So I wonder if Q is going to try and commit to something with +3 attack. For now, I love this move. If you are swapping to a defensive mode, you have to get drops in there to punish the Protoss's lack of map control. He forces a recall. This takes so much map control and kind of the stifling nature of herO's position away from him. Unfortunately, there's no defense on the left side. Sorry, this is the right. I know my right from left. What can I say? I was thinking about it from Q's point of view. Like, if you flip the map, guys, it's his left side. I'm joking. I wasn't actually thinking that. I just misspoke. Zealots are going to run away. So good defense for now, but you got to be really careful, especially if you're over max and you don't have units popping out. A bunch of Zealots get in. You might just, like, lose everything. All you've got is a tank on the high ground to defend. Stalkers come forward, get a volley on the Liberator, but of course 4 Stalkers aren't going to kill that. herO's going to lose this base. He's got a cannon behind the base because of the drop that was hiding over there before, which is hilarious. The probes are going to run to the left. herO's going to send his whole army around the map, realizing if he can get around the Liberators, he might be able to do this. Q has got to watch out. He might get broadsided on the left. herO's going to that left with the Stalkers, grabs himself a Viking. Cute maneuver there for herO. Baits his stim as well when he's pretty far away from the action. Force fields there. Force fields there would have been amazing. Oh, I would have loved to see those force fields. And look at this. herO sends the expendable units forwards, the Zealots, while the rest of his army, the technical units, run away. But Q also only sent 3/4 of his army home. He's still got 25% on the other side of that. Once again, this choke point. Dude, this choke point is insane. herO needs to be clicking these zealots into the main base. That's actually crazy how bad that is for him. These zealots are going to do some damage here, but the bio will come down to defend it. herO's lost 2 more bases here, so that's 3 bases herO's lost in this series of engagements. Q has done really well, but he doesn't want to lose all this Marine Marauder for free, and indeed, he's going to lose it for just a couple of zealots, so that's a good trade here for herO as he blinks forward, shuts it down. Now, herO still has a massive worker advantage, 25 problem. They don't have many places to mine from. He's got a new nexus coming up there. He's rebuilding a nexus here. He's got a couple minerals there. So he's got like almost no income. So Terran on 40 workers actually has a much bigger income. Once these mules kick in, you're going to see that number jump up above 2,000 minerals a minute. So right now, Q is mining more. He's replenishing faster. Armies are dead even. Upgrades are 3-1 versus 3-1. So dead even on the upgrades. There are 8 liberators, but keep in mind the libs do not have ship weapons. They do not have advanced ballistics, and things like an 8 marine drop, if it can find an empty mineral line, will shut down herO and finish his economy. This is an incredibly close game. There's only 2 medevacs, so you can see Q pivoting back into medevac production right now. This is what's really fun about Q is even when he does win games that in TVP and looks dominant in the matchup, it's never one-sided. It's always these like close base trades where anything could happen. Oh, did you see how quick herO's recall was? Holy moly! And don't get me wrong, Q was a little slow to stim in, but that was instant reactions for herO. Well done. herO's reaction speed is insane sometimes. Now, herO's economy, pure chaos. Fusion core is going down. Q is thinking about turtling up for the late game, but remember, he's only got 4 orbitals, guys. No planetaries, 4 orbitals, 1 factory, 2 starports, 5 barracks. It's not like he's got crazy advantage in that regard. He's doing okay. That's a hallucinated Colossus that he spends an EMP on, so successful bait there for herO. Gets a disruptor on a few Marines and a few SCVs as well. Not too bad. Now, the problem in this scenario with the libs is it's very hard to force a fight. You can hold a defensive position very easily, but then the Protoss can rotate around, and you don't want to be stuck chasing yourself in a circle, chasing your own tail, you know? And this is, even when your army's a bit worse at this stage in PvT, you can often catch these units out of position, like right now. And that's where the Terran can end up taking damage here, because the Protoss is able to just look at this, 4 zealots go in, finding a bunch of SCVs, disruptors looking for pot shots. At the same time, though, Q says, I'm back in your mineral line, D-bag. You've only got so many recalls, gets in there, gets 9 probes. But there's a zealot in the natural, that's doing big damage. There's still 2 zealots here, they're doing big damage. Yes, the medevac survives in the top left, but these zealots are very annoying. Q cleans up the zealots on the 3rd, cleans up the zealots on the natural. herO back to 2 bases minus. I say 2, but actually 3. This one's up as well. So he's got 3 bases scattered around the map. It kind of looks like a game where he's been 1 base swarm host nidist, and he's just had to take expansions far away from each other so that if he loses one, he doesn't lose the others. On the other hand, Q is in that tight defensive, panicked sort of Terran formation with now lib range and +2 armor on the way. Stalkers realize these libs do not have Marauder support. Linking into Marauder and EMP is really bad. But if it's just 2 libs on their own, the Stalkers can take an okay trade there. Always hard to tell if it's a positive trade, because on the retreat he does lose more units. Prism in the back door! Prism in the back door! Ladies and gentlemen, there is a Prism in the back door. Q at this time does not get his libs blinked on, but of course herO is still rotating with the main army. He's going to find the +2 armor. This has been, I think, single engineering bay all game long, hasn't it, guys? I think it has. Maybe, maybe not. I love a single engineering bay play. Marines come in, find another 9 probes here. Very nicely done. He forces another recall. The medevac does get shot down. And obviously those Marines will fall, but back to 56 probes is herO. And this is where, if you're both at this sort of economy, this feels more comfortable for Terran. Terran's more comfortable slumming in the 40s, the 50s of SCVs because of meals. Protoss usually likes to be up at 70 plus to feel like they can replenish, especially when you're in this situation where suddenly you're like, oh, I have no gas. You got to take gases on these really exposed bases that could get denied at any moment. And I think realistically, with the massive lib commitment that he's seeing, he should be going for Storm. But with no gas, he can't go for Storm. For those who don't know, Storm is a soft counter to heavy Liberator play, because Storm is splash damage that hits air units from far away. And often the libs run around in a big clump like this when they're trying to move to a new angle and quickly siege up. So you can kind of drop storms on them. Also, if you get around the army and the libs try to rush back to defend, they kind of have to siege on your army, which means sieging right in range of your High Templar. And that's when the Size Storms land on top of them. 110 damage for eating an entire modern Size Storm, which is a massive amount. It's a crazy amount of damage. Ooh! herO, gotta be careful these EMPs, man. Yeah, his Colossus shave off some units. His Zealots are being annoying. He's got this base back up as well, but it's really frustrating for him. And I think he's got to wish he had a Stargate at this point, right? If I was herO, I'd be like, man, just build a Stargate. But he doesn't have any gas. He can't afford a Stargate. So, you know, I'd be like, we just need a Phoenix or something hunting these drops down on the edges, man. Oh, good disruptor there. A few of the Marauders surviving deep in the red, though. He'd love to finish those off, but he's not quite able to. DTs would be lovely in this game also, as there's not a ton of money for herO. It is still 3-1 upgrades on both sides. No +2 armor for herO. Think, what a silly mistake. Make +2. He doesn't have gas, guys. And that's basically going to be all of my analysis for the next 5 minutes of this game is he's taken a gas here, didn't put workers on it. He did put workers on that gas. This one is now mining, which is good. I think it has been for a while, in fact. But feels like herO's army is starting to surpass herO's. herO's going to need some good disruptors and good pickoffs on these libs whenever they get a bit too far in front of the bio. It's a lot of finesse for herO required right now. herO's also got to babysit his units and use them in tandem. He's got to keep the bio protecting the libs. But also, if he loses all of his libs, it's a lot of Colossus Disruptor to deal with bio alone. Stalker's going to go after this drop. Nice move. Finds himself a full dropship. Very well done. And herO says, okay, you get a full drop. Well, I get to deny a Nexus and 10 probes. Can he re-siege in the middle as well? Looks like the answer is yes. Guys, advanced ballistics did get denied. Sorry, that's something I should have mentioned earlier. I did not realize that the fusion core got sniped by those zealots in the back of the main. So they not only denied the engineering bay, they also got the fusion core. Whew. Damn. This is a really fun game one, guys. Honestly, when I saw herO's build, fast eBay, I thought, ooh, that's a bit of a gamble. And then I saw herO doing like an immortal push, and I was like, well, this is just probably checkmate. But shout out to these boys for playing such an action-packed game from here. There have been a few terrible fights for herO in that early mid-game, so his early lead just disappeared. Sorry for flipping the scoreboard, that was a mistake. But he's fought back from there really well to hang in. I still think Q is probably ahead, but herO just refuses to back off. And I always talk about herO as like one of those small creatures in nature where they get up on that. He's like one of those lizards that frills out its neck. You know, it has like the neck fan that it gets out, and it stands on its hind legs and makes loud noises. And like a tiger or something looks at it and is like, whoa, that thing looks really weird and scary and confident, and it runs away from like the little lizard. herO, he's often able to keep a Terran pinned at home, even when his army's worse. And he's just causing them to react to him and dig for mistakes. But is this enough? He gets in the back with 2 prisms. He warps in a bunch of zealots. Those ghosts are very tanky. They will die, though. And killing ghosts is very valuable. Gets 2 ghosts, which is good. But is he going to get enough damage? Because Q is just doing such a good job at denying these corners with these single 8 Marine drops. You guys might be wondering, why doesn't he bring Marauders? Marines do way more damage to workers. And you can see how quick herO is at recalling. So he wants Marines because they actually kill things. Oh, Chadhammer goes down. I don't know if this is the right call moving across the map right now, guys. Q moving across the map with his entire army. That means his third gets eradicated. This game's going to turn into a base trade. Q is kind of the king of base trades in this matchup, but it's so dicey playing base trades against herO in general. 3 libs go down for just 2 or 3 stalkers. Excellent trade for herO. The balls and the stalkers on this low ground doing so well. And he's on top of the production. He warps in stalkers and zealots on the production. Dude, if you're on top of Terran production, it's checkmate. Like Q only has his army on the map. He could still win with that army, but this is such an advantage on the base trade. This is herO was being so annoying. And Q realized, look, if I just give him too much room, who knows? He might come out with a mothership, Psystorm, who knows? I need to just push across this map. But herO was miles ahead of him on the base trade. The prisms in the back were set up for it already, and they were already causing damage. The bio on the right side gets hammered. Now, don't get me wrong, he's going to depower herO's production and tech as well, but I always feel like it's almost like more important for Terran to keep the production up, because that, yes, you can float buildings, you're a little less agile, especially when herO's already got all these corner bases all over the map. And he's going to group back up on this natural. Looks like he sees the army coming back, and I think Q wants to gather his forces in the open because he doesn't want to get caught behind buildings. He wants to kind of be in the open where he has room to dodge disruptors. He's also looking for these other bases. Command Center burns down in the very far north there as well. Brilliant Marauder Viking down south. 90 army supply to 125. That looks good for herO. And there's not many ghosts, more importantly. 6 ghosts only. The Disruptor's being really patient. He finally throws 2 shots out. I just don't think Q can fight this. Not with, especially with the hallucinated Colossus. Oh, he gets all the Disruptors. He gets all the Disruptors. The Colossus goes down. I think he had to spend way too much bio to do that, though. And I love the hallucinated Colossus because it just overloads your brain as a Terran. I'm like, what's real? What isn't real? Can I commit? Can I not? He can't even scan. And that there was a crazy game. I was just talking towards the end of that game, admittedly, that I think Cure was winning that game. And basically those prisms, combined with this army never standing and fighting and just forcing him to reactively siege, pushed him into making a crucial mistake. Right? And this is something we were talking about. Like, he can just run around with the worst army and kind of annoy you into making mistakes. And you'll see Terran players do this consistently. And there's a lot of Protoss players who I think haven't played this side of the matchup. And they'll go, why are Terran players so stupid? Why doesn't he just turtle up, build more command centers, and just like keep defending? He's winning. He's out trading herO. He's in such a good position. Just keep denying the corners with dropships and just chill. The reason is it's very difficult to constantly dodge disruptors and deal with this army roaming around. And you're also like, it's hard to judge what's happening in the game because your vision is so limited in this corner with the occasional drop going out. And your drops, you know, they're kind of keeping herO in check, but you don't know if herO's at 90 probes. You don't really know if herO's at 50 probes. It's so hard to tell in this sort of game the exact situation you're in. And there's a lot of psychological damage of, you need to siege your libs here, you need to siege your libs here, you need to siege your libs here, you need to siege your libs here. And you can kind of see a cumulative effect where this happens to Clem, it happens to Kira, it happens to Beyond, where they kind of go, at some point, they're like, I would like to be the guy making a play and not just reacting. Because it just feels like you're playing dodgeball for 15 minutes and you're like, okay, screw it, it's my turn. But was this the right turn to go throw the ball back at his opponent? Definitely not. Definitely not. But he got a bit annoyed because he loses this orbital here. Does he lose this orbital? I don't know. He should really just repair that. But this forces a big response, this massive move here. And he doesn't quite micro it perfectly. And you can see he drops a scan because he's so curious. He's like, how many bases behind am I? Well, you don't have this base. I guess it's not too bad. And he does start defending here. And the Lib will eventually deal with the Warp Prisms. So he's thinking, in Q's mind, this is dealt with. He will deal with these Zealots. The Lib will deal with the Prisms. Problem, Liberator takes 2 minutes to deal with the Prisms, which means it's going to get like 2 full warp-ins off, and he's going to even warp in Stalkers to kill the Libs. So that's a mistake that Q makes here, right? Number one. And then here, this is just a bad move out. His army's like so small, it's already behind you. And I think the reason he did this is because of this recall. Oh, it's because he saw this army recall and he thought that's your whole army. He didn't realize this is still a big enough chunk to really demand a lot of... He thought it's a few units you've left behind. They're obviously going to run home. So in Q's mind, the Warp Prism is dealt with by the Lib. Obviously, we can see, no, it's actually going to get dealt with by this cute little Stalk Warp-in. The whole army is teleported home. No, actually, it's still there. Oh, and just in this moment, he doesn't know that there's such a big chunk of units there. He starts moving across. Then he goes, oh, wait, what? We didn't finish dealing with that? Oh my god, he's doing another full Warp-in? Oh, wait, this is way more units than I expected. What the hell? And you can see he's like, oh, crap. Okay, I'll send these Libs back. These Libs should be able to deal with this. And these Libs here from the production, okay, they can deal with that, right? Okay, you know, we dealt with the main. This is fine. This is still okay. And then look at this beautiful move. These 3 Libs just siege a bit too far forward with no support. The Stalkers are like, thank you very much. 2-3 Stalkers for 3 Libs. Any day of the week. Q is looking elsewhere. These guys get hit by Disruptors. The Stalker Warp-in comes in, cleans up all of his Libs in the main that he was relying on, and suddenly everything falls apart. This was elegant for herO. It's so impressive. It felt like herO was running into a brick wall, just going around trying to find a new way, kept punching the brick wall, looking for that weak bit. And then suddenly the entire wall just comes crumbling down. Sorry for spending so long on the post-game analysis, guys. I'm just really impressed with what herO pulled off in this game. I thought Q had this despite the early game build order going herO's way. GG, well played. All right, guys, going to the next game. Q in the bottom right is not going to get any room to himself. herO wants to keep the momentum up, and he just loves this immediate probe scale. I really like it as well. I think it's very annoying to deal with. Your barracks is always forced to be off position, and you're already losing mining time. Now, don't get me wrong. So is Protoss, right? herO has to give up more mining time, but it's the psychological damage. It's that I will not give you any room to settle, to really calmly think about your next steps in the game. And a lot of players actually have a big problem with going into the next game with no delay without really fully processing the previous game. I learned a lot from Grubby when I was coming up as a player, trying to get to the top. And one of the big things that helped me was I remember realizing that just being a bit selfish as a player and often refusing to start the next game and saying, oh no, I'm not ready. Just need a second. And just sitting there and spending a minute fully thinking about what went wrong in the previous game, getting my mindset right for the next game. And because there's so many options and things you want to be mentally prepared for, But you also don't want to be stuck in any one mental framework when you go into a StarCraft game. There's a lot of like, you want to think through every scenario, but then you also want to forget all of those scenarios, wipe the whiteboard clean, wipe the chalkboard clean, however you want to think of it. You know, you got to clean the slate, because once you get in the match against anyone, but especially against a guy like herO, there's going to be unforeseen things happening, and you're going to need to adapt on the fly. Like there's the rare game where you're playing and everything you do is like exactly planned out. You predicted the scenario you're going to be in perfectly. You know exactly what to do at each moment. More often than not, you get in game and all of your plans become loose frameworks and guides and general orders of what you should prioritize in what order. As opposed to what you would have liked, which was, you know, a very exact optimized progression. And that's why making sure you're in the right headspace early is good, and why herO harassing his opponent, I think, has a kind of hidden benefits of getting them out of that headspace. Now, that Adept could have actually tracked this, and my question is, would it have regened in time? I don't think so. Yeah, it wouldn't have. You see, the Adept would have finished. He'd only be at 19 hit points, 22 damage per Adept attack. So the Adept could have killed the Reaper there. I think it would have been worth it. I think killing the Reaper is a very big boost, and Terran players absolutely hate that. Does he cancel the Shade? Yeah, he sees the Marauder. The thing is, you know what's cute? Q has gone Marauders 2 games in a row. So he says, I don't need to go concussive. And you might be like, what? Why does he not go concussive? Well, because herO assumes you have concussive. Oh no, is he going to keep putting Marauders? Oh no, what is this a proxy lib? Proxy lib or proxy banshee? Or lib into banshee? Oh my god, this game's all in on both sides. It's not necessarily all in, but massive commitments, guys. Reaper gets pushed back. This is a proxy starport. There's a Cyclone very late. So there's going to be a Cyclone Marauder pressure coming across this map. There's going to be either a lib coming in from behind, possibly banshees behind it. Notice he's got space for the tech lab, so he can build a tech lab, but at the same time, a Dark Shrine's on the way for herO. herO chasing this Reaper to the very corner of the map. I wouldn't mind the Reaper just hiding in the very bottom corner. Now you can see, Q hiding in the corner. I wouldn't, oh, herO misses it. herO misses it. The Reaper barely gets out. It is indeed, it's going to be Cloaked Banshee. So it's going to be Cloaked Banshee. Do we build a second Cyclone? Or does he go tank here? Tank or Cyclone, that's fine. It looks like the Cyclone and Marauder are staying at home because herO is so out on the map. I actually thought the Cyclone Marauder would go out there. Problem with this build is you definitely don't have a Raven at home. And he's going to go Banshee first. Doesn't have the gas for Cloak because of that Siege Tank. You do need a third gas if you want to make Cloak, Banshees, tanks, everything at the same time. I think this is a free win for herO most likely, guys. I think like this build almost certainly gets checkmated by 2 Dark Templar coming in from here. I just don't really know what you can do against this. And it's charge instead of blink first. So any frontal push isn't really going to work either. Yeah, I mean, maybe you have a scan or 2 saved up, but if he drops a mule soon, which he probably should be doing, unless you're worried about DTs, you should be dropping mules right now. Clem's really weak to this build recently from herO because he's so good at constantly dropping mules. Cure, I think, is a little bit more intentional than Clem sometimes with saving energy, and it really does feel like he's saving energy. He knows something might be coming. He knows he's playing a Psycho who's pushed really hard to deny scouting. He sees the third coming up at a decent timing, but not crazy fast. Those 2 Stalkers will deny vision, but in come the DTs. And you can see it, guys. DTs in both mineral lines. Engineering Bay goes down. He was not really expecting this. He was focused on that Reaper. He's not even going to be able to kill this guy. Oh, he does. He does. Okay, the SCVs wrap around that one, but he's not even reacted in the main, and I think this is checkmate. I do not see... With that lack of an SCV pull in the main, that is just such a crazy amount of damage. Charges up, Robo and Forge on the way as well. Another DT runs into the natural. This is game. Yeah, this is game. No, Q is just not handling this well enough. He was shocked by the DT in the main, didn't even notice it for a while. It's one of those things where the DTs came in as he was staring at his Reaper on the other side of the map, so it caught him doubly by surprise. A lot of the times people see them coming up the ramp, scan them, and they kind of don't really take as much damage, right? Just lots of mining time and mules being missed and that sort of stuff. But this is really bad. These Banshees need to do game-ending damage. There is an Observer on the way, so it's not ready yet. The Banshees can kill 10-15 probes, but is that enough? I do not think so. You can see back at home, he is on absolute struggle streak, losing depots. Engineering Bay just got killed. I mean, you're losing your NG Bay here. That's a disaster. Okay, DTs could run into turret range. He's going to drop a scan there. DTs kill a few Marines before they do go down. Banshee down on the 3rd. Is going to get a few more probes before having to run away. The one in the main to 11 kills. herO can probe his way through this, and with the Observers and the Stalkers there, that Banshee will go down. And still another DT here on 1 base mining against 3 right now. Banshee flies back in, And I think Kua is seconds away from tapping out of this game. I do like that he built a Raven from the proxy starport and flew it home. That's actually adorable. DT still kills a depot before it goes down, though. At the end of the day, brass tacks, 16 probes, 20 SCVs, but you got to realize that the Protoss was already on third base. Didn't lose mining time, whereas Terran lost tons of mining time. Protoss didn't lose a ton of their buildings, whereas engineering bays, bunkers, depots, all sorts of things died. And there was pretty much non-stop probe production happening while the pressure was going on. So herO finds himself with 2 big build order advantages in a row, and I kind of admire that Kua has done 2 very well-planned specialist build orders. He did an upgrade rush game 1, fell behind off of it. Game 2, he goes for a proxy cloaked Banshee and runs into a DT build. I think it's a matter of personal opinion. Do you call this, and I'm curious, yeah, I'd love to see you guys in the comments in the chat, is this bad luck for Kua? 2 games in a row running for that thing? Because I would always call this bad luck as a player, but there are players who have less or more bad luck than others, if that makes sense. So how much of it really is predicting your opponent's builds really well? Is herO wildly gambling and just taking chances and getting lucky? Or is he sensing that playing this sort of aggressive style on some kind of subliminal, subconscious calculation has a good chance of catching Kua off if he's doing anything tricky and forcing him to play more conservative later in the series? And is this like an actual conscious decision that herO's make? I don't know. I never know in these scenarios what to call it. He's going to pull SCVs, but there's a mass zealot all-in coming in. Stim's not even ready. And this is a very scary moment here for Kua. The SCVs all get gunned down. The Guardian Shield picking up and dropping there. The triple auto turret from behind is adorable. Does get away with the sentry. I can't believe it. But 10 SCVs go down. Kua's at half the supply. And of course, with 6-gate Zealot producing Immortals +1 and the Prism going in to force this to be a complete all-in. It's a very scary scenario to be in. Yeah. Anytime you can cut off the reinforcement from an all-in, it's really good. Because now all these Marines are not able to join up. And you can now give up your third with no fear of being behind an economy, right? This guy is not even mining right now, let alone rallying units to the front. You can kind of go around, pick off his reinforcement, try to get on his tanks. And look at that, free siege tank. These guys, what are they going to do? It's like 12 Marines, 2 tanks, and a Raven. Colossus will get depowered. The robo that's building the Colossus, I should say. Going to try and siege up. He's in a bit of a choke point. Not a good position for herO to fight into, but I think with the Immortal on top of the tank, it's fine. Yeah, 2 Immortals on top of the tanks. Kua's got to tap out. Hectic game 1 into a disaster of a game 2. And it's one of those game 2s where when you do this sort of build order, Dark Templar are just so incredibly difficult to deal with. herO did an excellent job of denying the Reaper. He walled off the ledge, so there's no real way to get in to scout this unless you happen to drop a scan. If you do drop a scan, where do you drop it? Do you drop it over here? I guess here would see the Dark Shrine and most of the main, but what if he's built some tech back here, right? The reason you don't see scans much at high level is because and that's often why people go for things like a Widowmine drop or a little Marine drop or a Cyclone Marine drop is usually in the process of going for that drop, you kind of see what their production and tech is, and it gives you a good idea. And that's why against a more standard Terran build, Dark Shrine not very powerful. Against a proxy starport, it's god tier. All right, guys, series has not started well for Kua, so he's decided to go for a double proxy Marauder, I think this is. He's in the bottom right, and it's an immediate probe scout. He is so desperate that he's like, he basically is saying, well, I'm down 0-2, I need to gamble, and there's no way herO scouts at the start 3 games in a row. He goes, herO is the kind of guy who will scout at the very start 2 games in a row, and then we'll do a gas first, no scout in the next game. And Kua's heart is already sinking. Now, to be fair, herO, it's over. This is a 3-0, isn't it? Is it a best of 5 or a best of 7, by the way, guys? I'm not quite sure what these series... I think it's a best of 5. I purposely not spoiled myself. GSL historically has always been best of 5 into best of 7, but you guys let me know if this is a best of 7, if they've changed the format at all. Chat confirms it is actually a best of 5. No worries. In the quest of not looking up the results to spoil myself and casting these replays, I do that. But yeah, so basically as herO, guys, all you do is you take a second gas, you play 1 gas, you play Stargate here, and you can't lose. Now, herO is just going to expand because herO really likes making the game of StarCraft as difficult as he possibly can. He's not built a second pylon, no second gate, no cybercore, and I've got to wonder... He's just going to go Cybercore into Nexus? Okay. So he's going to try and defend with gateway units and shield batteries. Okay, interesting. Interesting. You can always do this, and it's okay. It just is much harder than doing it the other way. And oh, look at that. He gets blocked. And then Q was like, no, I'm going to let you build the Nexus. He literally let you put it down, herO. Technically, you can defend this with Zealot, Stalker, Shield Batteries, but it's a very, very technical micro match. Why is the Cybercore so late? Well, that's a 1 minute 30 Cybercore. I think his gateway was a little late, just by a few seconds. That does seem late for a core first, doesn't it? Maybe it is herO, and he did send his first probe across the map to scout, which delays your whole build by a few seconds. So keep in mind, if you do an immediate probe scout, your whole build is slowed down, so this sort of defense is much weaker than with a more economic opening. So the super early scout really slows you down on everything else in your build. And that is something to keep in mind. If you grab one of your first probes across, you are missing so many minerals. Now, he's going to try and defend with one gate. He's still probing. Guys, it's an all-in. He's still only got one gate. Okay, he finally starts the second gate. Where is that? Guys, where's the second gate? Am I blind? Oh, he just canceled his Nexus and built a second gate. Okay, so herO's realized, hey, dude, I'm getting all in by Marauders. I don't need an expansion. If your opponent's built their production outside your base, you do not need an expansion. And this is why I always kind of think the expansion is a bit of a cocky move against this. Here comes the SCV pool. Stalker Zealot's going to try and fight. He's got to take out the Marauders, but oh, the SCVs are actually, he's moving away from the batteries. Oh no! Because he didn't want to get surrounded by the SCVs, he moves away from the batteries, but now the Stalkers are near worthless because they're not with the batteries, because the Marauders can volley you down there. Oh, and he doesn't have any probes pulled. You need to normally have about 8 probes with the shield batteries. If you have 8 to 10 probes, you can defend this. But herO completely botching his response. He goes for the Nexus, cancels it at the last second, but there's no chance with how late this second gateway is for it to add any production. He builds 5 shield batteries, but he's only got a Zealot and 2 Stalkers with it, no damage. And Q is gonna literally find the hard counter, a player who scouts your complete all-in build immediately. But herO messing up the response, a rare moment of top-level player not being ready for the all-in they scouted at the very beginning of the game. herO had the build order counter in terms of scouting the most all-in opening, but he didn't respond to it. Now these Marauders are doing critical damage. The Stalker Sentry was really nice, though, that because the probes couldn't get us around, the Marauders are still a very real threat, and that Stalker going to be going down. The battery's not going to be able to heal through 5-6 Marauders all shooting simultaneously. You can see they can just volley their way through the shields so easily, and that is going to be GG. herO there, just way too cocky. And I've talked about this for a while, how, in general, a lot of pro players will basically just, they'll always try to take, Max and herO will always try to take the Nexus. And what I've always impressed by is Classic in these scenarios. Not always. Sometimes Classic will take the expansion and defend it as well. But more often than not, Classic in this scenario, playing herO's build, he just immediately is like, yeah, no worries, let's go. Double gas, get the second pylon out, go for a Stargate. And even if he gets a little contained on denying his natural, he's just in a great spot. Like, he's just in such a good spot. And you got to realize, guys, if your opponent builds 2 barracks on your side of the map, they are so all in. Like, because people will go, oh, but if he contains you on one base, being one base against Protoss is really bad, because then the Terran can take an expansion. And I'm like, mate. Your opponent's barracks are in the middle of the map. Like, if you think about the general fundamentals of StarCraft, it's not just about, okay, he's one base, I'm Protoss, I need to get a second base to be ahead. It's your buildings are in your base where they are safe and protected for the rest of the game. His production is on the map, which means the moment you get map control, you deny his production. He has to float it all the way home, rebuild add-ons, and start his production from scratch. This is such a disadvantage. So you don't need, if your opponent is doing a one base build at home, often you still want to take an expansion, so you have that lead after you defend. But against a guy who proxies their everything outside your base, you just need to survive, because the moment you get a bigger army than them and you can push out and deny that production on the map, it's like almost a game-winning advantage. And this is a general rule you can apply across all matchups in StarCraft. Keep in mind, herO did also mess up, guys. Gateway normally goes down at 37 seconds. It will be slightly delayed if you are going for an early probe scout. It might be delayed to 39 seconds. herO is not watching. He's harassing the SCV and trying to block the barracks, and his gateway ends up going down at 44 seconds. His gateway is 7 seconds late from a normal opening gateway. 7-second delay? And then trying to defend with Zealot Stalker, that's a game-losing difference right there. That is absolutely insane. And the fact that he was still putting probes after he knew the push was coming, even if he went Nexus, I feel like he could have got a second gateway out and started pumping Stalkers 2 at a time a lot earlier. Because if you get enough Stalkers, your damage output gets much higher. And as you lower the Marauder count, it's really big. But he also needed to pull probes as the Marauders were coming in to keep his units buffered and protected. Probes are really good at tanking against Marauders, especially with all the batteries healing. GG though, Kua gets a map. All right, guys, herO in the top left drops a map there from what should have been a 3-0 game-winning position, and this time it's a single proxy barracks for Kua. Kua is basically saying, nah, in this game he'll go gas first, no scout. No, it's herO. He's decided he can not let you get any momentum in the series if he just scouts what you're doing at the start, and this is a good way to play. Big thank you, Alien Grub, for the sub as well. Appreciate that, mate. Yeah, that gateway going down at 44 seconds is wild. It's really what I've actually I used to be very strict with my openings and very inflexible in all matchups as Protoss guys, where I did the same opening every game, and if I tried to just change something little like, oh, in PvT today I'm going Cybercore before Nexus instead of Nexus before Cybercore, I would often make a lot of small mistakes in my build because I wasn't used to it, and I realized I was so reliant on doing the same openings over and over that it limited my ability to adapt and kind of mix things up. And I guess about a year ago, 2 years ago, I was inspired by watching herO just freestyle and how many little basic errors he still has in his play. But like, they're never big errors, it's just lots of small errors. But the fact that he feels so free, just pivoting between drastically different styles, I thought was amazing. And I started doing the same thing, and it's really made me feel much more flexible when I'm playing Protoss, and it's kind of cool. I used to be a bit more rigid in my play, and I've tried to become more like herO, who's doing Q's doing an all-in. So he's just going to do a Marine tank all-in, guys. The counter to this is if herO just builds a gateway on this side of the map, warps in a bunch of units, and checkmates him, because all of his unit production is on your side of the map. He's going double gas this time, so he's playing much more respectfully after the last game, realizing, oh, this could be a big all-in. And at about a minute 40, minute 50, if you don't see a factory at the Terran's base, that's when you know the factory's on the map. So because it's double gas, not single gas, he knows it's not Marauders. But when you see the factory not at home, that's when you know it's going to be Marines, Cyclone probably first, and then tanks. He'll build a starport here. He'll go for one medevac, and then either Vikings or Liberators. Probably a Viking, then a Liberator because of gas constraints. Now, herO going Stargate is insane. Most players will not play Stargate against this, guys. You could play an Oracle, fly it across the map, and kill all of Kua's SCVs, especially if you save an energy recharge for it. So I guess that's a good move. The problem is, if he gets you kind of bunkered into your base and tank sieging you, how do you get out? Like, Stargate's not the most useful unit there, unless you go Fleet Beacon and build Tempests on one base, which is so obscure. I doubt herO does that. I think it's Oracle, right? Oh, he's going to go Void Ray. Okay, so he's just going to try and focus down the Cyclone tank. It's tank first. Oh, no, Kua, you're meant to go... You know what? This is so funny. You're meant to go Cyclone first in case they go Stargate. At the pro meta, no one plays Stargate. Therefore, Kua has optimized his build to go tank first because tanks are better than Cyclones, right? In terms of fighting against ground. So you might as well go tank first because nobody plays Stargate first. herO says, hold my beer. I am the one guy who builds a Stargate after scouting a one base all in. This is the most herO thing in the world. This is the most herO thing in the world. Like, we all know the build that's coming, but herO is just like, nah, man, I'm going to make 2 Void Rays, and just like, he's going to Prismatic Align, bust the tank and medevac down so fast, and it's going to be, and if you have a Cyclone, you're okay against this. Hopefully he builds a Viking immediately, and then Kua maybe has a chance, but without that, it's going to be a problem. As I said, even a few units are a problem over here. Getting SCVs, damaging the depots. He's going to start pushing forwards, but look, there's batteries in the main. There's 2 Void Rays and 2 Stalkers almost out. He's going to try and elevate push here. Dude, when he sees that Void Ray, his heart's going to sink. Void Ray, Prismatic Alignment, no! And they're trapped on the high ground now. They're trapped on the high ground, these Marines. Oh my lord. He doesn't even have a Viking either. So Kua's actually, because he lost so many minerals from pulling to repair the depot, he couldn't even afford a Viking. It's just now started. And the Void Rays are going to take down every Marine on the high ground and the medevac, and it's checkmate. herO, this is just herO, man. He thinks outside of the box. He's so flexible. And you know what? It comes with a cost. Sometimes he scouts an all in game 3 of a series, which should be a free win against a proxy Marauder, and he just does something a bit silly and loses the game. You know what? That's the price. I feel like herO is the one Protoss who is happy to pay the Reaper. He's happy to pay the tax of, yeah, I'll make a doo-doo once in a while, trying some weird stuff. But you know what? The benefits outweigh the cost. And that is a dominant semi-finals. Who does an Immortal push game 1? Who does that on the biggest map in the pool? Goes for DT's game 2 while completely denying Q's map vision with the Adept and Stalker's screening. Game 3 totally messes up his defense to a Proxy Marauder, but it doesn't matter because game 4, 2 Void Rays to hard counter your tank push. That's just absolutely nasty. Really good response for herO in game 4. Shuts down Q. And I got to feel for Q, this feels like one of those series where as a pro player, you had pretty solid plans going into it, but I think herO did a really good job of, in his mind, approximating the sort of range of strategies that he thought Q would try to surprise him with in a big series. He knew Q wasn't going to play stock standard in the semifinals. And he said, I think you're going to land somewhere in this range of builds, and if I do this particular range of Protoss builds, they're going to match up well with that and give me some advantages, or at the very least force you to play a bit safer as the series goes on. Q did not play safer as the series went on, but he got more and more punished as the series went on. GG, well played. herO goes to the GSL finals. Legendary.